Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman, for your indulgence, and I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. We'll now recognize Mr. Carey of Ohio.
First, I want to thank the chairman for having the hearing, and I want to join the ranking member in wishing our colleague, Mr. Evans, we can't wait to have you back up here with us. So, I also want to thank the witnesses for being here to discuss this much-needed reforms to Unemployment Insurance Program, or UI from now on. Today, alongside my colleague, Representative Greg Landsman from Cincinnati, I'm proud to introduce the new Opportunities for Business Ownership and Self-Sufficiency, or as we call it, No Boss Act. This legislation intends to support individuals pursuing small business ownership by improving the currently underutilized self-employment assistance program within the UI program. Our legislation aims to make state participation less burdensome and to encourage greater engagement in the C program. Mr. Raderman, currently, the federal unemployment tax, or FUTA, taxes paid versus revenue received by states who fraud UI administration is unequal across the states. You can see from the chart behind me. The disparity is most pronounced in the Midwest, where I come from in Ohio, the South, Southwest, according to your own calculations. In FY 2022, according to the Department of Labor, FUTA receipts versus amounts returned data, Ohio employers paid an estimated $229 million in FUTA taxes, and Ohio received $105 million in administrative grants from DOL, which is, if you do the math, it's only about 46% of the taxes paid. So as you can see, Ohio kind of is getting the short end of the stick here on the UA administrative funding versus taxes paid by its employers. Funding that could be used to potentially administrator programs like the Self-Employment Assistance Program, or C, which my bill, the No Boss Act, gives states more flexibility to administer. Can you explain a little bit why this disparity is so pronounced in these areas?
Thank you for the question, Representative. So the way that the dollars for program administration get distributed, it's through a resource justification model. The main points of emphasis in terms of how it gets divided up between the states, it includes both program efficiency and processing the various basic workload, and then how accessible the program is. So is there going to be a higher workload in the state? And so the states that, or the agencies that are having the most issues with either efficiency or accessibility, they end up getting penalized the most when it comes time to actually distributing the dollars. And a better approach would be to make sure that all the states were getting a much more stable amount, making sure that it was based more on the working population that was overseen rather than the claims levels itself.
Okay, thank you. This committee has done important work to address fraud and overpayments of the UI benefits, including the House Passed Protect the Payers Victims and Unemployment Fraud Act, which was mentioned earlier today. States like Ohio are making investments in fraud recovery and prevention efforts, and as they continue to recover these fraudulent payments, we should be working to incentivize their investments in these efforts. So back to you, sir. What thoughts do you have on policy recommendations that would incentivize states to pursue fraud recovery work?
Thank you for the question, Representative. A number of the proposals that have been put forward do include incentives to provide states a percentage of the funds that are reclaimed. I know that there's been proposals to allow the OIG to pursue fraud for a longer period of time, making sure that those fraud dollars end up going back to the states makes sense to us. But I think making sure that the state agencies have more robust funding moving forward. So all the dollars that are being raised specifically for administration, ensuring that they go back to the states and that some of the losses due to inflation over the past several decades get undone. Those are both important measures to put them in a better financial position.
Again, I want to thank the witnesses, and I want to thank the chairman and the ranking member for having this hearing, and with that, I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Carey. We'll now recognize Ms. Steele.
Thank you, Mr.